Settle down, friends. Settle down, friends. Settle down, friends. You'll just be able to turn the music all the way down. There's no other audio coming out of the computer. Hello, good morning. Yeah, that's okay. Settle down, friends. Settle down, friends. Whoa. Rick! Shininkwala. Friends, Happy New Year on Saturday. There's a lot going on this weekend. There's the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift is relevant. Maybe not in this room. And then next Tuesday is the culmination of celebration in New Orleans with Mardi Gras. My name is Matthew Hurt. I'm the Director of Professional Services here at Leadership Institute. And good morning and welcome to Leadership Institute's February 2024 Wednesday Wake Up Club Breakfast. Morton sends his best. He is at another breakfast this morning. We'll have to get on to him next month. He is at an event with Speaker Mike Johnson, hopefully securing the border. Would be great. We live in interesting times. I'm going to trade you out up here. You'll be giving this. The top of the fold of the Washington Times today, this morning, has a headline that may surprise you. RNC leader to resign under pressure from conservatives. There's one of you in the back. One of you. Thank you. This time last year, Ronna Romney McDaniel was up for re-election. After promising not to run again, she ran for an unprecedented fourth term. The results speak for themselves. Since McDaniel's 2017 election as chair of the Republican National Committee, the Republican Party has had a net loss of 7 governorships, 3 seats in the United States Senate, and 19 seats in the House of Representatives, and the presidency. Anti-Ronna forces rallied behind Harmeet Dillon, the National Committee woman from California, and a successful election and First Amendment lawyer. She is absolutely brilliant. You've probably seen her on Fox News. It looks as though the Trump campaign will rally behind Michael Whatley, the chairman of the Republican Party of North Carolina and the RNC's general counsel. With 9 months to go before Election Day, will Whatley be able to turn around the RNC? Time will tell. I encourage you to live tweet today's event. The hashtag is on the screen here, and if you tweet at LeadershipInst, you might get a retweet. In 2023, you heard this number last month, but we're rocking and rolling. Your Leadership Institute has trained 31,446 conservatives at 2,121 separate programs. And I'm going to help you wrap your brain around that. So there are 365 days in a year, right? Usually. And Leadership Institute last year hosted 2,121 separate programs. Now, I went to public school, so I can't do that math as quickly as some of you, but that's a lot of programs per day, even. Since 1979, your Leadership Institute has trained more than 289,563 conservative activist students and leaders. You have before you LI's schedule of events for the upcoming months, including, for most of you, a flyer for our next Organizing Behind the Lines program, which is on Saturday, February 24th. That training is specifically for people who live in Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Northern Virginia to learn how to organize right here in a place where 80% of my neighbors living in dead voted for Joe Biden in 2020. Please take a moment to review these schools and consider attending one or sending a friend to a training. If you are watching out there on TV land, I'm not supposed to recognize the camera, but there you are. Visit our website at leadershipinstitute.org/training. And if you're here or you're online, go to leadershipinstitute.training. You're all busy. You got to take your kids to soccer practice or get to the Eden Center on Saturday for a big celebration, or you're watching the big game. I'm not allowed to say what that game is. But go to leadershipinstitute.training, and you can take hundreds of hours of training right there at your convenience online. And really, Stephen Rowe over there, where'd he go? Stephen Rowe over there is the purveyor of that website, and he's done a really great job. If you've got Netflix or Hulu or any of those paid subscription program services, the Leadership Institute.training looks a lot like that now. It's super easy to navigate, and I encourage you to take 1 or 300 hours of training. I will now introduce Maren Emerson for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. This is Groundhog Day for me and Maren. Maren Emerson is from Delray Beach, Florida, the free state of Florida, and is a freshman at the University of Oklahoma, where she studies political science. On campus, Maren is involved with the Turning Point USA chapter, as well as the university's pre-law society. She plans to pursue leadership roles in both organizations by running for executive positions. Maren got her start in politics in 2020 when she interned for Michael McCall's re-election campaign. That's in Texas 10. Maren got her, did that already. Maren also interned for the city of Katy, Texas, that metropolis you all know, the police department from 2022 to 2023. Outside of politics and school, Maren does have a real life. She's a member of her local church and enjoys to travel, watch college sports, and to read. Maren is the professional services intern. Maren?
Thank you, Matthew. Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning with hearts full of gratitude for the gift of another day and for the opportunity to gather together. As we begin our day, we lift up our organization, our attendees, and our speakers, asking for your guidance and blessing upon all who are present. May our conversations be filled with wisdom. Lord, we also bring before you the state of our country and our leaders. We pray for wisdom and discernment for those in positions of authority, that they may lead with integrity. Pray for a revival of moral values and virtues in society, asking for God's help in promoting integrity, responsibility, and respect for life and family. Grant us the grace to feel your presence, Lord, as we engage in conversations, share ideas, and build connections, and for your presence to be with us throughout our day. Amen. Now please rise and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Rick Tyler, who I know you've all seen as you watch MSNBC all the time. Rick Tyler is the director of the Campaign Leadership College here at Leadership Institute, and if you haven't heard about it, it is, he's going to tell you about it, so I won't. He is also a thought-provoking political analyst for MSNBC, cable news network, offering a conservative perspective on unfolding political events. He makes Joy Reid's hair flip right off, right there on screen all the time. He's the author of Still Right, an immigrant-loving, hybrid-driving, composting American makes the case for conservatism. He is a speaker with the Macmillan Speakers Bureau. As a professional political strategist, Rick has helped hundreds of candidates prepare for the rigors of campaigns and public office. He's co-founder of Foundry Strategies, a strategic communications firm specializing in helping candidates and campaigns hone their communication skills. Rick was the national spokesperson for United States Senator Ted Cruz's presidential campaign in 2016. And in the 2012 election cycle, Rick was a senior advisor and spokesman to the Winning Our Future PAC, a pro-Newt Gingrich for president super PAC. Before joining the PAC, Rick was a key member of Speaker Gingrich's team for over a decade, serving as his advisor and spokesperson. As lead trainer for GoPAC and trainer for Leadership Institute, Rick has trained thousands of candidates, citizens, and public officials and their staffs in the United States and countries around the world, including Canada, Italy, Greece, Japan, Latvia, Estonia, and Israel, to lead successful campaigns for elected office. Rick has been invited to speak to many professional groups, committees, and state legislative caucuses. He will come to your committee if you ask nicely. A gifted communicator, Rick has appeared thousands of times on national television news shows, including MSNBC, as you've heard, Fox News Channel, CNN, CBS News, NBC News, ABC News, PBS, HBO, CNBC, CBN, Bloomberg News, BBC, CBC, RTE, which is a great Irish news program, news channel, and Al Jazeera. Rick Tyler, please bring us the programs report.
Thank you, Matthew. In words of Henry VIII, he said to his many wives, I shan't be keeping you long. So we just finished our 8th CLC, the Campaign Leadership College. If you don't know, that's a 9-day campaign management school, which Morton has tried to get everybody else to do, including the RNC, unsuccessfully. So he's asked Mark Campbell to do that. And so I've been heading up that logistical effort with the help of many, many people. And so we just finished our 8th school. We've trained 325 campaign managers this cycle on our way to the goal of 400, which we will reach likely in June. And hopefully we can continue to do that, because I think that getting qualified campaign managers is really important. It's not fair to put our conservative candidates on the ballot without qualified help. It's a little like driving a Formula One car and changing the tires yourself, right? That is just not. The candidates need to perform. One good thing about the school is that the goal is to get it to be 100% referred, and right now it's about 53% referred. The last school was 74% referred. And what I mean by that is a former graduate sends somebody, an LI staff sends somebody, or an LI faculty sends someone. So we've had very good success. We're digging in. So the 325 students have come from 23 different countries. We have trained people in 37 states, plus Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. I think it's a really great program. It's personally, on a personal note, it is very satisfying to help people in 9 days gain as much as 9 days of experience. We used about 17 to 20 faculty members. They have a combined experience of about 300 years. To be fair, most of that is your next speaker. Lincoln was a great candidate, right? Thank you very much, and I would love to talk to you more about the Campaign Leadership College, if you like.
Now I will introduce Esma Kurtlew for the purposes of introducing our speaker. Esma Kurtlew is from Houston, Texas, and majors in political science with a double minor in French and economics at the University of Houston. Esma, je suis désolé, je ne parle pas français. As a student leader, Esma serves as the financial officer for the French Club and is founder of TEDx University of Houston and the Turkish Student Association at her school. Esma was awarded the President's Service Award for completing 250 hours of community service, I'm told it was not court-ordered, for the 2022-2023 school year. She was appointed as a committee member for her school's performance hall and religion building, where she gets to represent the student body interests. Recently, Esma was in France at l'Université Catholique l'Ouest, which is Catholic University of the West, I think, in my brief French learning, to improve her French fluency. I hear this intro is going to be in all French. Aiming to work in diplomacy in the future, she plans to return to study international relations at Sorbonne University in Paris. In her free time, Esma enjoys poetry and painting, and Esma is the fundraising training intern. Esma.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Mark Campbell is an expert political and research strategist with a winning career spanning over 4 decades. He began his career as a presidential fellow during the Reagan Administration, honing his skills in the Department of Defense. Dr. Campbell was recently selected as a Pritzker Fellow for the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics and is currently a senior fellow at the Leadership Institute, where he teaches campaign management skills to future leaders. Dr. Campbell has taught hundreds of political party leaders in emerging democracies around the world, including the art and science of connecting with voters on behalf of the International Republican Institute and the Leadership Institute. As an innovative political entrepreneur, Dr. Campbell co-founded Audience Partners, one of America's first online digital political ad agencies. In his most recent political role, he was the winning campaign manager in the nationally highlighted Virginia gubernatorial race, representing now Governor Glenn Youngkin. This stunning Republican victory received international attention as a bellwether race to foreshadow future voting patterns. Dr. Campbell has worked with hundreds of federal, state, and local campaigns, winning numerous tough, down-ballot races in swing areas, even when the top of the GOP ticket lost substantially. Dr. Campbell served as the national political director for Ted Cruz for President, and other presidential campaigns include Rudy Giuliani, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush. Mark and his wife Kathy reside in Dallas, Texas, and have 6 grown children. The Campbells are a family of servant leaders who are all successful professionals in such fields as nursing, law, and a future Army officer. The Campbells are committed to using their skills and resources to make a positive impact on their community. Thank you.
So let me tell you my favorite French story. I was scholarship to go to a prep school, and 9th period, every Friday, our French professor, who was French, would have me read the dialogue for the week because he found it so entertaining, and so did everybody else in the class. So obviously not my skill set. I can barely speak English, but I try. I'm from New Jersey, so I'll use a lot of small words and speak slowly. But I thought it would be interesting just sort of walk you through the evolution of, how a lower middle class kid from Jersey, I wasn't raised in a trailer park, but I could see trailer parks from where I grew up. And, how I got there to here. My mother was from Scotland, so I'm quite frugal. My father was an Army sergeant. My mother broke off an engagement with a British colonel to come marry the American serviceman. You can imagine how much my grandfather loved that idea. So I've been in and around controversy for a long time. My mother's maiden name is Stewart. She's a descendant of Mary Queen of Scots. My father's a Campbell, and the joke was they got married to continue the feud. Being a fellow at the Leadership Institute is without a doubt the most important role I've ever had in my entire life. Forget presidential campaigns, forget all the other things. Morton Blackwell is a personal hero of mine. I know he's a personal hero of Matt's and Rick's, and he's a personal hero of anybody who's ever met him. Rarely in the world today are there true gentlemen, right? I mean, that's something that is a little bit of a lost art, right? Well, Morton Blackwell is a true gentleman. There's no better conservative in the country. And sometimes I feel a little bit bad about being here because I am not a movement conservative. I am a conservative that wants to win elections because you can't govern if you don't win. So for those of you who are looking for ideological purity, I am not your cup of tea. But as Ronald Reagan said, your 80% friend is not your 20% enemy. So I hope we can all agree on that. I was one of the first high school seniors in the country to run for his own school board. It was when dinosaurs ruled the earth, 1976. I was a senior in high school, and the superintendent and I cooked up this thing that I was going to run for the school board, but I was just going to try and get the school board budget passed because it hadn't passed in the last 5 years. So it was like one of these contentious things, right? 13 people ran, top 3 people won, and I spent the entire last 3 weeks of the campaign telling people, please don't vote for me, but pass the school board budget because I wanted to go away to college. Because if I had won, I would have been stuck in Pensacola, New Jersey, and I probably would not be here today because I would have killed myself. So fortunately, I came in 4th, school board budget passed, and life went on. But what that experience taught me was a couple things. That there's nothing about politics that's worth sacrificing your family for. There is nothing about what we're doing that is worth doing damage to long-term relationships, either with spouses or kids. Let the Democrats destroy their lives on the altar of politics. For us, family has to come first because it's fundamentally who we are. Now, I am keenly interested in what is going on in the world, probably more so than ever before, because my youngest, the future Army officer, is at West Point. And so now I view conflict in the world in a slightly different way than when I didn't have any skin in the game, right? And of course, my son he's the one that's most like me, right? So he has decided he wants to be special forces, and he's going to be the one jumping out of helicopters and all those kinds of things. My grandfather, on my mother's side, was one of the founders of British intelligence. My father was in the intelligence service. I will skip my own checkered past, move directly on to my son, that I think that's the direction that he's going to be moving in. So whenever any of you see the news about the Ukraine or China or whatever it is you're looking at, I just want you to remember all the Gold Star families, all the families with children in harm's way, because they are all doing things to make sure that the Democrats are allowed to shoot their mouths off and be idiots, right? But it's up to us to win every campaign possible to try and get back the mantle of leadership. My early career was a presidential fellow in the Reagan Administration. And then I moved on to open up my own consulting shop. And I'd never forget, the year was 1986. Young Bill Scranton and our inspector, back when he was a Republican, both at the same time asked me to get involved in their campaigns. And I said, well, I can. I'm starting my own business. And they said, but we want to hire you. So I picked up the phone and called somebody whom I had met by the name of Roger Ailes, and I said, hey, I've got 2 politicians in Pennsylvania. They both want to hire me. What do I do? And I'll never forget these words. He said, think of a ridiculously high number, double it, and ask them both for that. I said, okay. And thus my career as a political consultant was born. So, what I'd like to get all of you to understand is that we are in a very simple business, okay? I want you all to believe that I have been vastly overpaid my entire career. Politics is about doing exceptionally simple things exceptionally well, right? It is not about overcomplicating things. During the Youngkin campaign, we had a lot of pressure from former governors and other people that Terry McAuliffe had 147 pages of policy, and we hadn't put out any policy. We had positions, and we talked about it, and we were running a campaign. So we figured out that of the 147 pages of policy, 139 pages was all things that he never did the first term. So we started attacking him on all the stuff he promised to do in the first term and never did, and he stopped talking about policy that worked out very, very well. Our entire policy was on a front and back of a piece of paper, and it was Glenn Youngkin's Day One game plan. Now, why was that so smart? Number one, policy and position papers are what people like me look at the other campaign and pick apart, right? People just want to know where your head's at. Whose side are you on? So we could tell them everything we were going to do day one, and they knew where our heart was and where our soul was. There's a lot of consternation right now in and amongst the conservative movement about this, that, or the other thing. But let me assure you, please, all of this too shall pass. Life is okay. We will all be okay. If you want to look at what life is like now, go back and look at the 1930s. The economy, the two political parties, the confusion about what's going on in the world, right? But all of us here have a mission, and that mission is to, at least sometime during each day, try and make the world a little bit better for your neighbors, right? Here's the trick to politics, and it's something that we did with Glenn Youngkin when we built the culture, that we treated everybody not only the way that we wanted to be treated, but we treated them the way they wanted to be treated, right? It is not for us to tell people how they should live. It's up to us to lead by example so people want to join us. And here's something not a lot of people really want to hear. We quite often have had the presidency in both houses, and we failed to do everything that we needed to do, right? So the failure of the Republican/conservative brand is just as much Mitch McConnell's fault as it is Barack Obama's. And we just have to accept that and move on and move past it. Now, as you can imagine, being from New Jersey, I believe the campaigns are a contact sport. I believe it's hand-to-hand combat. But let me just tell you a couple things that I'm pretty sure of. January 6th was not a lost tour group, and the last election was not stolen. Because you can't do it. Trust me, if there was a way to steal it, I'd know what it was, and I would have done it by now. That was a joke, mostly. Okay. But we want to thank you for being here. Whether you're visiting, whether you're a donor, whether you're part of the staff, because you are what makes the Leadership Institute live. You are the living, breathing thing that makes the Leadership Institute the country's leading conservative training organization. There is nobody in the world, and I do mean nobody in the world or the United States, that does more for the conservative movement or trains more conservative leaders than they do here at the Leadership Institute. After the Youngkin campaign, I could have kept consulting and, making a lot more money. But I'm here because what Rick Tyler and I are doing, and what Matt is doing, and what Stephen Rowe is doing, and forgive me if you're on staff and I haven't pointed you out, are building something for the future. We're going to have our training online. We're going to increase our outreach to the public. We're going to better engage people where they live and help them understand what they can do to improve their own lives. Remember, the conservative movement is about improving the lives of taxpayers, families, seniors, and young adults. There's nothing in it for us personally, right? As a matter of fact, it's the other side of the aisle that makes money off of politics. We are woefully bad at it, except for some of the consultants who will be unemployed after the RNC chairman leaves. Oh, come on, that was funny. Gee whiz, guys. Am I going to have to make you stand up and hug each other or something? Come on, it's a little early for that. So let me just talk for a second about winning. Winning is about, Lou Holtz used to give a speech, and for you who don't know who Lou Holtz is, he used to be the football coach at Notre Dame. Doing what's important now, W-I-N, what's important now. So all of us every day need to do what is important at this moment to help us move our own lives and the lives of the conservative movement along. I have a picture in my office, and it's a family in a horse-drawn sleigh over the snow, and they're surrounded by wolves. And the caption at the bottom says, "Shoot the wolf closest to the sleigh." Now, what does that mean? All of us face challenges in our daily life, right? But we need to shoot the wolf closest to the sleigh. We need to do what we need to do each and every day in order of when they need to be done. Now, why am I telling you that story? Because sometimes I don't follow that. Sometimes I will worry about the wolf in the tree line, even though I got 4 wolves around my sleigh, and I do that probably because I'm sick of thinking about those 6 wolves, and I'd rather think about the ones in the tree line. But we have to stay focused. We have to stay focused on what's important. I thought it was very fascinating that Nikki Haley lost Nevada to none of the above. Like, what do you do with that this morning, right? We came in second. It was an outstanding campaign, and we were moving boldly forward. So I think it's pretty safe to say that President Trump is going to be our nominee, and I think we would all agree that his policies are light years better than Joe Biden's, and light years better than the policies that any Democrat, liberal, woke, use the adjective of your choice, could come up with. Last time I left California, the thing that I saw last was very sadly a homeless, well, I assume he was homeless or he just couldn't wait, but what looked like a homeless person defecating on the median. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, how very sad for him. I wonder what we can do to help him. But then I thought, this is not sort of a rare sight in California at the moment. You look at the cities in California, and they are truly a mess. What does it say about the woke party on the left that Gavin Newsom is even considered presidential timber? I mean, that's truly frightening. So it's up to all of us to continue LI's mission of training good people to do good things. Are you okay? I guess that's, yes, good. It's funny, I have a habit of doing that because I was speaking once and somebody started to choke, and then nobody was really paying attention to the person choking, so I had to jump down off the lectern and do the Heimlich. I got a standing ovation for a relatively mediocre speech, but I did save a life. So if my speech really sucks, if anybody would like to pretend to choke, I'll give you $20 after. So one of the things that I encourage all of our folks, and Matt runs an alumni association for folks who take a great many of our leadership programs. Rick runs an alumni association of the people that we're training in campaign leadership. That's finance directors, campaign managers, et cetera, et cetera. And the whole purpose of that school is to help people not make the same mistakes that we all made. You know what the definition of a political consultant with 40 years experience is? Somebody who's made every mistake twice and has still lived to talk about it and is still in business. Because experiential learning, I mean, you know, I'm 67 years old. I don't feel a day over 85. And I know for a fact that I'm smarter now than I was when I was 40. You couldn't have told me that when I was 40, right? But we all know that experiential learning is really important. So what Rick has done is put together a world-class faculty that helps people not make the mistakes that we made earlier in our career, right? Because as conservatives, there are less of us, right? Which means what? We've got to be the special forces of political sanity. We have to be smarter, we have to be brighter, but we also have to be patient. And we have to be loving, and we have to be kind, and we have to be nice. Anger and vitriol does nothing but split moderate, undecided voters, or as I like to say, dazed and confused voters, away. Right? So we have to be kind. We have to be the opposite of what Democrats are. We have to be the party and the group and the movement that folks want to join because of the quality of the people in it. Right? So I'm going to pause here for a second and just take any questions. And these questions can be about the state of politics today, Glenn Youngkin's campaign, what happened to Rudy Giuliani. I'll take any question. Yes, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Don't know. Yes, sir.
Or the point spread, right?
Right.
So obviously my favorite is Harmeet Dillon, and yours is for the RNC chair.
The RNC chairman should be focused on winning campaigns, not picking who the consultants are that get all the contracts. And I don't, and I have, well, I do have something against consultants, but I don't really have anything against consultants, and I'm glad they did well. But when your track record is that bad, it's time to move on. And these negotiations have been going on for the last 60 days. I think you're going to see a new staff and a new chairman that is focused on winning campaigns and not focused on other things.
From your lips to God's ears.
Well, isn't it about time? I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of the RNC being the sons and daughters of the Fortune 500. I mean, it's, enough is enough. Oh, you can clap for that. That's okay. Yeah. I am not invited to the RNC Christmas party. Just saying. Yes, sir.
Yes. So you've been part of the whether you call yourself a movement conservative or not, you've been part of this effort for 40 years now.
Right.
And I remember when Barry Goldwater talked about shrinking the size of government, when Ronald Reagan talked about shrinking the size of government. I worked for Newt Gingrich, who talked about shrinking the size of the government. But government hasn't shrunk. And my question to you is, how do we transform the conservative movement from a movement that only talks about winning the next election to a movement that when we win elections can actually begin to at least strengthen checks and balances against the abuse of power and maybe actually start taking power out of Washington and giving it back to people, as Trump suggested when he gave his inaugural speech?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, those of us who live in, around, or near the swamp are fully aware of the fact that there are so many vested interests, lobbyist groups, associations that have a vested interest in the status quo, that even when you come in wanting to do things, if you don't have the legislative leaders in both parties willing to do the right thing, there's really not that much that a president can actually do. Now, the one thing I would like to personally thank Joe Biden for on behalf of the conservative movement is that we now learn that you don't really need Congress to do anything. You just pass executive orders, right? So I would think the greatest job in the world would be to have a small closet-side office right next to the incoming future president, and the entire job would be to think of new and interesting executive orders that we can implement. I mean, you know, God bless Joe Biden. He doesn't care what the Supreme Court says, right? No, you cannot pay, you know, the student loan forgiveness is against the law. He's still trying to do it. The difference between conservatives and the woke left is the woke left thinks anything, the means justify any ends. They do not care. Yes. Question, a couple questions, all the way in the back. Please make them easy.
Yeah. Easy question is, in Virginia, the state Senate elections, there were 6 districts, and many of them were lost in November 2023 with Juan Pablo Segura, Donovan, others, and the life issue was so important. Which lessons do you draw from the Democratic campaigns that succeeded with this vicious attacks to make the life issue a winning issue? What lessons with the 15 weeks, the exception? So what do you make out of that?
Yeah, let me simplify 2023 in Virginia for you. Any political subdivision that was D plus 9 or less, we won. Any political subdivision that was D9 or more, we lost. So there was a line at which we just could not overcome traditional non-conservative, non-Republican voters. So that is fact number one. Fact number two, the Youngkin campaign, Glenn very wisely figured out that being pro-life with exceptions got 53% of the vote. Partial birth abortion, 38%. So we were prepared during that campaign to make it about abortion if that became necessary. But we knew that it was not necessary just to make it about that. We made it about parents and kids and all kinds of things. Did that answer? So anyway, to answer your question, we cannot, if we continue to stick our head in the sand about the abortion issue, we are idiots because we are getting pummeled, right? Because they say, oh, they want to take away all of your abortion rights and da. All we have to do is say, no, they're the extremists. I mean, what part of this don't you get? In Virginia, the law was that you could actually terminate a pregnancy outside the womb. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. So we have to fight the battle on the ground that we've been given. And somebody asked me, well, Mark, how is it that you beat the Democrats? We worked harder. We thought harder. We went after Black, Hispanic, Asian voters. We went after every disenfranchised minority that there was. Honestly, if you want to know that I'm just not very bright, I never thought Glenn Youngkin could lose. Apparently, a lot of other people thought he was going to lose, but it never dawned on me for a second that he could possibly lose. And oh, by the way, been in this business for 40 years. Glenn Youngkin is the most decent, hardworking, honest, great person you would ever want to meet.
Amen.
His family, his kids, but Glenn is just, my hardest job in the campaign was not to turn into a groupie and just go, oh, Glenn, right? Oh, Glenn, you're just so smart. You're so tall. I love that vest. Yeah, right? I mean, so I had to really focus on doing those things. And oh, by the way, our entire margin of victory was the movement amongst Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters. and by not having suburban women want to scalp us. Okay, can we get a microphone, and then we'll do these couple, and then we'll come back over here.
Hi, thank you. I too have learned that politics is a contact sport. Is there anything that can be done so that good people will be willing to run when they know that's what they're going to go through? And is there any way to stop buying voting blocks, which then makes the elected official owned kind of sort of by those voting blocks that they took money from?
Yeah, no, and thank you for that question. The only way to beat the woke left is to outwork them. Too many on the right have opinions about things that just are not things to have opinions about. For example, if ballot harvesting is legal in your state, stop debating whether or not it should be legal in your state and do it better than the woke left does, right? The best way to not let the woke left own voting blocks is for us not to give them that ground. You know, as a Jersey kid, we always campaigned in the building trades of labor. The building trades, the Teamsters, you had to talk to working class people in unions where there was an intersection of interests between conservatives and them. There is no group in the world who's more ticked off about what's going on right now than a union waiter making $60,000 a year, and he sees everybody around him being given more than that. Who in their right mind wants to live in a sanctuary city? Have all of us driven around downtown Washington recently? You know, it's just shocking the utter stupidity of some people. Notice I'll say some people because I'm trying to be nice. So in D.C., they cut back the penalties for carjackings. And then carjackings went up by some astronomical number, and they're shocked. So I'm telling everybody to be nice and to be kind and treat other people the way they want to be treated, but let me tell you something else. There was a paper written about 30 years ago, and I've got a doctorate, so I think I'm smart, right? And I read all this stuff. And the whole article was summarized by, you can't fix stupid. You can't fix stupid. You can't talk to it enough. You can't educate it enough. You can't talk to it enough. You can't do enough for them. You can't, So the trick to this business is to find out exactly who will never vote for us. Find the people that would vote for Jack the Ripper if Jack the Ripper was a woke candidate, and then do not spend a dime on them. Do not try and talk to them. Try not to convince them of anything. Newt Gingrich, one of my all-time favorite people, made one critical mistake. All of us who grew up listening to the Go Pack tapes and all those things, Newt always used to say, you can't educate the press. You can't educate the press, so don't try. Then he became speaker, and what did he do? He tried to educate the press, and they stabbed him in the back every chance that they got. So we have to find out who the 65% of the American population is that can be spoken to and won over. Another big problem that we have, our founding fathers imagined that congressional leaders would go home. It was supposed to be a career, right? They never imagined that 85% of every seat in Congress was going to be a safe seat. Either somebody from the woke left or like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, that is not exactly the way the political debate was supposed to go. right? So now I think, Rick, what is it, like 60 seats? There's really only 60 House seats that are in play at the moment. So, okay, so 60 House seats are going to decide the fate of the nation. You do the math on that. That basically means that, 1, 2, or 3% of the population is going to call the shots for the entire country. So do you think we need to focus on the 5% of the voters in the middle, what I refer to as the magic middle, the undecided voters? And how do you do that? By being reasonable and thoughtful and not angry. I once had a woman tell me in a focus group that she wasn't voting Republican because some candidates reminded her of her first husband. Interesting. I think campaigns are like dating, right? People have to get to know you, they have to get to like you, and they have to like you before they trust you, and they have to trust you before they will vote for you. And it is a process. It's a process based on treating other people intellectually with respect. It is not a browbeating. You can't send stupid voters to a timeout. Go to your room, right? You can't do it. But I'm here to tell you that our greatest days are ahead of us. Every couple decades, we go through a moment in time like this. It'll be okay. We're the greatest democracy in the world. We are the greatest political system that's ever existed on the planet. It's not perfect, but it's better than everybody else's. There were a couple other questions. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am and ma'am. Whoever gets the microphone first wins. Okay.
Okay. I've been active in conservative politics since you were 7. But at any rate,
God bless you.
There used to be a role in the of the RNC that they were supposed to remain neutral until we had a nominee, and that was pretty strict convention and rules.
Yep.
And then if you got a nominee that was from a different wing of the party than what had prevailed, he got to name a new chairman, and everybody voted for him.
Yeah.
Well, now we're in a different world. We have a presumed nominee who has once served as president, who is by no means any conservative. He does some good things, and I would support him over any Democrat. But we then had a chairman who stood up on national television and said, everybody else get out of the way, withdraw, we've got to unite, when only 200,000 people have voted, and now she's out. Comment on that phenomenon. I think it's more about what she's done for the last 7 years than the fact that she overstepped the role of an RNC chairman. But I want to know what you think.
Well, that's also the chairman who, when asked if Glenn Youngkin was going to win, dodged the question, right? So there was a former NRCC chairman by the name of Tom Davis from Northern Virginia. He wrote a book with Martin Frost, who was his counterpart on the Democratic side of the aisle. And in that book, they talked about the fact that parliamentary voting was becoming more and more of a factor in the United States. Now, not a parliamentary form of government, but voting. It used to be we voted candidate first, party second. Now, we are party first, candidate second, because Democrats think they know what a Democrat is. They think they know what a Republican is. Republicans and conservatives think they know what a Democrat is and what a Republican is. So at this moment, the world basically breaks down into 45-45. So you've basically got, I'm from Jersey, but 45 and 45 is 90, right? I take off my shoes, but someone just nod their head yes, and I'm right. Okay. So, which means that the entire election is going to be about the people who are trying to make an honest decision based on the information that they have. And then when you combine that with the number of states that are actually in play, so if you watch the stock market, it was the Magnificent Seven, now it's the Magnificent Six, right? So much for Tesla, but I think he'll be back. Anyway, in politics, there's only 8 at the most states that are in play. So this entire political process will be directed at 8 states, the swing states, at 60 congressional seats, and the vast majority of Americans from states that are kind of already decided what they're going to do. All we can do is write checks, volunteer, pray, and we're pretty much out of the picture. But what's interesting is that the national press acts like this is like there are national campaigns. As everyone in this room knows, we don't have national campaigns. We've got national campaigns that are run by counties. And every single county in the country has a different system, different set of rules when they count absentee ballots, et cetera, et cetera. So since I'm always in trouble, let me get myself in trouble a little further. Voter integrity. In Virginia, there was not a single vote stolen. You want to know why? We read the law and we held everybody to it. This isn't rocket science. You can't ignore ballots being counted in parts of the country, and then after you've ignored that they were counted, which was no accident, accuse them of stealing. Like, okay, where were your volunteers on election night? Where were your volunteers up in that process? In Virginia, there's 45 days of early voting. Every day was election day. Listen, we can't say that the woke left is incompetent and capable of stealing a national election at the same time. I personally believe that the woke left couldn't deliver a pizza, right? But what they do is offer people a lot of free stuff, right? You don't have to work hard. We'll give it to you. Yes, you're an art history major, and yes, you're $250,000 in debt, but we'll help you pay that off, because that was some really good decision making, right? Okay, I won't tell my favorite art history story. Yes, there was another question. Wait, can you wait for the microphone?
Would you say that it's no surprise that Terry McAuliffe significantly lost against Governor Glenn Youngkin when he said that parents have no right to what their children are learning in schools? So that moment so let me dispel a myth about that campaign. About that moment in the campaign. A lot of people think that that's the comment that won it for us. The week after that comment came out, our polling numbers actually went down because the teachers union pumped in so many millions of dollars and got their base so activated. And then we were concerned that we could keep that issue alive for 3 weeks. In politics, the last month of a campaign, every week is like a month, right? And you're like, oh my God. But what it did do is it gave a signal to independent, thoughtful, moderate voters. Like, they couldn't believe what they heard. I remember when he said it, running back to the producer's monitor and going, can somebody play that back? Because I don't believe I just heard it. But then he doubled down on it. And then he brought the American Teachers Federation union person in. I mean, you want to talk about pouring gas on a fire. And, thank God for the parents in Loudoun County. But can you imagine a world where a school administrator would move a young man who physically assaulted a woman in a bathroom to another school and not notify anybody, not even the parents? And yet the Justice Department wants to call parents terrorists? You just can't make this stuff up. I mean, honestly, I miss my dad, but I can't even imagine what talking to him right now would be like. So I'm going to take 2 more questions. Matt, okay, one more question. 2 people have their hands up, so you pick.
It's not me, it's Evan.
Okay. I will answer your question, both of your questions after breakfast, but I'll take yours live right now. How's that? I got time. Yeah.
Ronna McDaniel recently said that messaging wasn't the responsibility of the RNC. And we see that it appears that the Democrats have their messaging pretty well coordinated across the media, the party, big tech, social media, you name it. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay.
Where does the responsibility lie for messaging?
Well, let me tell you
when
what the
we're losing on
Democrats
that
do.
battle sometimes?
The Democrats, the party of the woke left, they talk to their leaders, they agree on what they're going to say, and then they all say it. On the right, the House doesn't agree. It doesn't seem that Republicans in the House agree with Republicans in the Senate, and based on election results recently, does anybody really care what the RNC says? In an ideal world, every single morning we would do what the Democrats do. And that is, Rick, what time do they have their talking points out? 7:30, 8 in the morning? Every single morning the Democrats have their talking points out for the day. And every talking head in the country and every elected official is on that talking point. That's why they all sound the same. But guess what? Oh, yeah, no. And trust me, a vast majority of them have never actually had an original thought. So it's coming from somewhere. Okay, I am going to wrap up. I want to thank all of you very, very much, and I will be around. God bless.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who came out. Great questions. Join us on March 6th, which is one day after Super Tuesday, for our next Wednesday Wake Up Club breakfast. I encourage you to go ahead and RSVP online. You can do that at leadershipinstitute.org/breakfast. I'm looking for Andres Nava. Andres, come on up here. I invite anyone interested in a tour of the Stephen P.J. Wood Building, where you are right now, and the Emerson and Dolores Reinsch Center for Campus Reform next door, to meet Andres up here at the lectern. He will give you a great tour of the building and answer any questions you might have. If he can't answer a tough question, he'll pop up perhaps to Morton's office and ask him there. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you at an upcoming event. Thank you.